Heading down to the courthouse. I'm not as early as I'd like to be. Generally, I try to be really, really early everywhere I go. I'd rather be early than late for everything. Um, uh, but you know, I've put in a tremendous amount of work on this whole thing, and time and money and everything else. I mean, you know, when you care about your kids, there's no length that you won't go to ensure that their best interest is being looked out for. And definitely at the moment, their best interest has not been looked out for a long time now. It's been over 18 months. And you know, I am who I am. I'm not a perfect person by any means. And don't worry, I have a nice shirt to wear for when I get to the courthouse. It's just super warm here. It's 81 degrees. It's actually really nice in Encinitas today. It's 81 degrees, but I'm heading to Vista, and it's definitely going to be 10 degrees hotter out in Vista, where my kids have been forced to live by their mother for the last 18 months. I mean, how much better off would they be in Encinitas just weather-wise alone? The weather here is so much better. Never mind the fact that I feed them all organic, that I'm like super hyper-focused on education, that I'm like super calm and rational and reasonable, that I don't suffer like manic episodes of depression and bouts of alcoholism and everything else that they have to deal with in their lives. I can only hope that the adversity my kids have faced in the last 18 months, that they get something out of that positive, you know. And I'm always trying to look at the bright side, but this is a tough one, you know. When your kids are suffering and there's nothing you can do about it, it's gut-wrenching and heart-wrenching, and I mean, it is just miserable. It's miserable when you care about your kids and you know they're suffering and there's nothing you can do about it for 18 months. 18 months now. It's crazy. But I got all of this evidence I'm about to go submit to the courthouse. Over a week early, so I'm doing my best, you know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't really understand all the legal processes that I'm being subjected to and that my children are being subjected to. But you know, I can see what the other lawyer's doing and replicate it and put in, you know, my own evidence. You know, and I'm sure that my evidence isn't perfect. I know it's not perfect. It's probably going to make me look bad in some ways. But my evidence has the benefit of being completely honest. 100% honest. I don't embellish. I don't exaggerate. Everything that I mention has literally occurred. And I will be uploading a PDF of this to the internet for everybody to see, warts and all, my warts as well, because you know, this whole process has been such a waste and torturous abuse for my children. It's like I'm trying to find some kind of good that can come out of this hideous process that their mother has put me and them through, and documenting the process and showing the world how ridiculously disastrous the court system is here is really the only thing I can do that to me might might show some positives, you know, or might be able to, something good could come of that, you know. If somebody goes, man, look at this guy. I mean, I have no criminal record of any kind at all. I mean, I've got a couple of traffic tickets that are like years old now. You know, up until the divorce started, I had an 815 credit score. I mean, I hadn't defaulted on any bills, nothing. I've been a responsible adult for decades. You know, I've no history of violence, no history of any kind of mental issues whatsoever. I mean, I'm a little, you know, eccentric, maybe, but I mean, almost everybody's a little bit eccentric in their own way, right? And yet, despite all of that, with no evidence, with no judge, with no jury, nothing, just on the hearsay of one individual, myself and my children have had all of their rights stripped for 18 months now. It is crazy that's how this can be. That's crazy that can happen to the kids. And it's a real condemnation of our society, of our entire society. Not just the courts, but everything, you know? I mean, the no-fault divorce thing is just so gross. You know, you got one parent who's like, you know, doing their best and going to work and being loyal and looking out for the kids. And you got another parent who's just going out around town drinking and having sex with multiple, you know, drug addicts and stuff. And it's like, and then, you know, oh no, it's a no-fault divorce. It's just, you know, we can, you know, we won't even talk about that. We won't even discuss that. As if all of those aspects of this case in particular don't relate heavily to the well-being of the kids. I mean, you think it's good for the kids to see, you know, one of their parents out drinking all over town and having multiple sexual partners, and it's the psychologist reports, the studies that show what that does to children are just overwhelmingly devastating, especially for me to read them and not be able to do anything about it, and to know that that's exactly what's happening to my kids is just horrible. It's just horrible not to be able to do anything about it. And yeah, she's married now, whatever, but it's like, come on, dude. Her husband lives in Hawaii. She's a cheater. What do you think's happening? You really think she didn't find somebody to snuggle up to while he was gone to Hawaii? Please, seriously doubt it. I don't know. That's speculation on my part. I really have no idea. I just know from my situation, like, once the blinders were off, it was very clear to me that I'd been cheated on multiple times over many, many years. So, I mean, you know, maybe she's sober now. Maybe she quit drinking and doing drugs. And maybe she's not out partying. And maybe she, you know, I have no idea. And frankly, I don't really care, except for the fact that at this point, she has sole guardianship of my two small children. And given that I know how she was before, and I have no evidence, because I have no contact whatsoever, that she's changed her ways in any way, I have to kind of assume that she's falling back into those old patterns, and she's doing all that in front of the kids. And then reading the psychologist studies on what that does to children, it's like, and then not being able to do anything about it, it's just like, I mean, it's not that I can't do anything about it. I am doing stuff. I mean, I'm collecting evidence from third parties and you know, driving to meet people and get statements and begging friends and family for emails, you know, kind of corroborating my side of the story, you know. And it's and you know, it's funny, some of the stuff that I got, they're gonna think that, you know, probably the judge is gonna assume that I, you know, coached somebody on what to write or how to write it, just because it so backs up my story exactly. It backs up my version of events in every way. But the funny thing is, I didn't coach at all. I was just like, hey, you know, this is what's happening to me. I'm going through this horrible trial. I just want some kind of custody and visitation of my kids. I've had none. virtually none for the last 18 months. You know, I just need some help from somebody. And one of the emails I got was so just like, it told a story that I don't remember. I was there, and once I was reading the email, I kind of remembered. I mean, I remembered all the background details, but I didn't remember some of the specific details that the email mentioned. And the specific details are so damning to the other side, because they so corroborate, you know, my version of events so perfectly that it's like, but I mean, you know, the judge is going to have to make a call. He's going to read the letter and he's going to assume that I was telling these people what to write and stuff, but I actually really didn't. I didn't tell anybody what to write at all. I said, listen, you know, they're trying to claim that I'm, you know, a violent danger to my own children, and they're trying to get a 3-year restraining order against me, with no evidence other than a couple of Facebook memes of all things. And you know, so if you could just write a letter on my behalf saying, you know, hey, I know this guy, you know, he's a good guy, he loves his kids, you know, he's trying to do the best he can out here. I mean, that's all I told him to say, you know. And but then some of the specific stories that they wrote about Mrs. Garcia and about what they witnessed as far as my parenting and her parenting, and it was just like, I mean, it's really damning for Mrs. Garcia. But you know, who knows if the judge is going to believe it? I mean, you know, at the devastating divorce hearing I had last August, when I lost all my rights and when the kids lost all their rights, the judge just didn't believe me at all. And I told the truth on everything. I didn't exaggerate. I didn't lie. I completely told the truth 100%. And the judge just didn't believe me. And she lied through her teeth. I mean, she perjured herself on the stand. Her dad perjured himself on the stand. And I had evidence for that too. And the judge was just like, yeah, I'm going to side with her. I believe her. I don't believe you. So I'm just siding with her completely. And I'm just like, and that little snap decision by this one judge now has caused my kids to suffer for an entire year of extreme parental alienation. And it's just like, and it's caused me to suffer. It's caused me to spend another $100,000 in fight, you know, and lawyer fees, and you know, I mean, you know, printing up these documents, conforming these documents, it's not free, you know what I mean? $80 to print and copy these, you know, and have them sent to the opposing counsel and everything else, you know. And it's just, this whole system is just, it's absolutely insane that this is, you know, in a case where there's like property damage or theft or something like that, I mean, you know, or murder, you know, there's going to be a trial, and you're going to have a jury of your peers, and you're going to have to present evidence and all this kind of stuff, and you can't just rely on hearsay. In a custody trial like this, it's literally just hearsay. It's just like, oh yeah, what, you know, we're just going to listen to both sides and kind of like make a snap decision and let it go, you know. And it's like, and you know, I prepared so well for the last trial, and it just didn't matter. It was just like what the judge thought, you know. The judge took a look at me, took a look at her, took a look at me, took a look at her, and goes, yeah, I'm gonna trust her. And just that was it. And that was, you know, and then she wrote the most one-sided divorce judgment maybe in history. I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous. The lawyers I showed it to down here were flabbergasted. I mean, there were a couple of lawyers that were like, literally, this ruling is so bad, there's no way I'm going to take your case. But the initial ruling is so bad, you have such an uphill battle, I'm just not even going to take the case. A couple of lawyers told me that, and I was like, well, thank you for your honesty, thank you for your time, and thank me for your $800 consultation that I'm going to pay you. But here we go, heading back to the courthouse. Got my paperwork, gonna go submit all this. Got another hearing at 1:45 in about 1 hour, Department 35. And this one I'm just gonna ask for a continuance, because I mean, everything's riding on this trial next Thursday, so I don't have time to like prefer and come up with all these documents and stuff they wanted me to come up with. It's just like, you know, I mean, it should be understandable. I mean, you know, when you've got 131 pages that I'm submitting, and the other side has submitted 300 pages. So, it's pretty gross. It's pretty gross. I mean, just as, you know, as somebody who cares about the planet and the environment, just like all of this paperwork, and keep in mind, mine is less than half of what they're submitting. You know, it's just, I mean, this isn't good for anybody. It's not good for the kids. It's not good for me. It's not good for the planet. Honestly, it's not good for her either. Even if she totally wins on this hearing next week, it's not going to be good for her, because eventually the kids are going to find out the truth. The truth always outs. And the kids are going to find out the truth, and they're going to hate their mom bad. I mean, I've known so many people who have gone through this scenario, and all of them say, yeah, when one of the parents does that to the other parent, the kids end up hating that parent like bad, you know? And so it's like, you know, and I've just been begging since the very beginning. And that's my number one piece of evidence, Exhibit A in my submission here, is like just an email from me just being so reasonable, saying, hey, I want to, you know, I just want to be involved in the kids' lives. What do you guys need to make that happen? How can we work this out? Let's negotiate. And then the email I got back, not even from my ex, but from her sister, was like, if you email us again, we're going to get a restraining order. It's like, a restraining order, like over an email where I'm saying, hey, how can I get to see my kids? Like, that's pretty, I mean, it just shows that they're following a playbook, the same exact playbook that her older sister followed exactly with her ex-husband. I mean, they're doing the exact same thing, you know, the same restraining order, the same claim of mental instability, the same, like, you know, it's just, they did the research, and they're trying to create this narrative that's, you know, that backs up their version of events. And it's just like, it's so gross to me that they would go to all that work in order to make the kids suffer, number one, and B, I have to assume that they're financially motivated or something. I mean, it's clear that, you know, I mean, why else wouldn't they let me see the kids? I mean, I'm obviously not a threat to the kids in any way. You know, if feeding your kids organic fruit makes you a threat, then, you know, that's me. Threat level 1 million, you know, because I definitely feed the kids organic fruit every time I have them, you know, and it's mostly organic, you know. If something's in season and looks good and has a thick husk and isn't organic, I'll still throw it in the cart, you know. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just, you know, I'm vlogging all this. I've been vlogging all this stuff from the beginning. As soon as there's some kind of resolution and we're done with all the court dates and the drama, I mean, which might be another years, you know. I did the Grace. She's not going to turn 18 till 2032. Might be in this court battle till 2032. It's 2018 right now. I might be going back to the courthouse again and again and again, fighting for custody of my kids till 2032. I mean, that's not uncommon. I mean, I've met other dads who have been put through the same thing that I've been put through. Not to say that, you know, it's the same situation all told. I mean, everybody's situation is slightly different, but as far as the court system goes and how all this works, you know, this is definitely not unusual. And you know, and so I'm in it for the long haul, you know. I'm in it, if I have to keep fighting for my kids till 2032, you know, health permitting, you know what I mean? At this point, I've been so stressed out about not seeing my kids for so long, I don't feel well. I physically don't feel well. The stress and anxiety and the sorrow of having 2 kids and knowing that they're suffering and that there's nothing you can do about it is just, it's physically debilitating. I'm physically not feeling well. And, you know, I'm trying to take care of myself and eat well and get plenty of exercise and stuff, but, you know, it's tough, you know, and meanwhile, I mean, I've just completely run out of money, you know, I mean, I spent every single penny I've ever had on supervised visits mostly, and lawyers, you know. I mean, there's nothing you won't do for your kids. There's no dollar you won't spend for your kids, especially when they're being harmed by somebody. So that's what I'm doing. I'm out here fighting still. We'll see how it goes. I mean, I can't imagine the next ruling is going to be as detrimental to me and the children as that first ruling was. I mean, especially now, I mean, I've compiled so much evidence of parental alienation, and which is a form of child abuse. I mean, my children have been being abused for 18 months now. And I've compiled a ton of evidence to that, to prove that. So, you know, hopefully the judge sees that alone and is like, listen, I've got to make some kind of ruling where the dad gets to see the kids. That's all I'm asking for, you know. I don't know. We'll see. The kids tell me in the video chat, almost every time we video chat now, the kids tell me, no, I want to see my kids. It's a very natural I spend every month, you know, in cell phone bill, and it's just, you know, reconnecting. Can't stay connected for a live stream. Well, my connection keeps dropping in and out. I don't really have much else to say. Just Everett and Grace, when you get to watch these videos, which eventually you will, just know that I love you very much. I